Hello, welcome to this episode of the Smarter Business Podcast, business advice with a video bent. This podcast is set up for folks that want to use video in their business. And my guest today is Aly Finkle from SelectOne. Hi, Aly.
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Yeah.
Um, Aly, I am going to start off by just asking you to kind of intro yourself and SelectOne.
Sure. So I'm a partner at SelectOne and kind of oversee delivery, making sure that we provide a exceptional experience for our clients. SelectOne is a local recruiting firm where we find hard to find talent for our partner organizations.
That's excellent. I was going to ask you to boil down what Select One does into one sentence, but you beat me to it.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
hard to
No, we
find
are
talent.
expert recruiters who can go out and find those people, maybe not necessarily looking for a job, to help them explore new opportunities and make an impact at an organization. So
Just as a follow up on that, do you find that, like, I don't know statistically if you'd have this number ready, but like how many of the folks that are great finds, like great placements, are looking for a new job versus maybe not?
So I'd say more than not, we find that those passive candidates out there. Not to say that there aren't exceptional candidates who are actively looking, but more often than not, we're going to find those people that maybe hadn't thought about switching careers, and we try to get them engaged and present them with an opportunity that excites them and gets them thinking.
Excellent. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I always, well, I've owned my own business for a while. I haven't been in the job hunt, I guess, but I always think of, Monster and Indeed and like people going through a million, job postings. Um, how is, kind of utilizing a recruitment firm a much better way of doing it? And I showed my age there when I said Monster, didn't I?
No,
Do people still use it?
I yeah, I think Monster's still in the mix, but the Indeeds, the LinkedIns of the world are
Yeah.
definitely the
Yeah.
primary, I'd say, job boards these days. But I mean, using a recruiter, you can eliminate kind of the just how broad and unstructured and unfocused and unspecific lack of specificity you get when you just post a job and hope candidates come to you. It's what we offer is the expertise in really understanding your culture, understanding what success looks like, understanding why you need this position, and then going out and specifically matching up not only like skill set, background experience, but personality traits and behavioral traits that we know is gonna result in alignment. Because we know, and I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people, when you are aligned with your job, you're just going to be more engaged, you're going to be more productive, you're going to probably stay longer. But if you're in a position where you're mismatched from not only a skills perspective but just personality fit, probably going to be looking for something new. So I think while you can get a large high volume of resumes on these job boards, you're really going to miss out on finding that fit, and that's where Select One comes in. It's a much more tailored, customized process when you work with a recruiter.
Excellent. Yeah, and the I would imagine personality and whatever else we put there that trumps overall kind of skill set and education requirements and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of hiring managers and business owners and functional department managers are starting to prioritize personality and behavior over hardcore skill set. You know,
Right.
a lot of positions, if you're a CPA, you need to have, your CPA license, and you need to have the skill set. But um fit job fit is such a better indicator of success and um longevity in a position than just matching apples to apples when it comes to they have this skill set, because that culture piece is so important now that there's an emphasis on like training and organizational development. Hiring managers starting to understand that maybe we can train some of these skills, but it's really hard to train someone's critical thinking skills, or it's really hard to train someone's communication or assertiveness. And so we've really tried to hone in and understand what traits make someone successful and how can we find those traits in a specific candidate versus saying this person needs 5 years of experience, because that's not indicative to success
Right.
necessarily, in most positions. I mean, I believe, and I think that's the way that HR and talent acquisition is starting to move.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess my next, it's not much of a segue, but
Mhm.
the next thing we were gonna touch on is uh recruitment in kind of COVID that's been going on this last little while. I don't know, how has it affected
Yeah.
it? Like, were some of those meetings and getting to know people's personalities and behavior types and all that, was that face to face, or was that all digital and you can do the same stuff, or how
Yeah.
different is it?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And talent acquisition, hiring, recruitment, is all heavily impacted by, when we talked about this, larger macroeconomic issues.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, at the beginning of COVID and this whole crisis, when companies had to prioritize employee safety, the transition to working remote, hiring became, less of a priority. It got put on the back burner, and that affects our business tremendously. Fortunately, we work with a lot of businesses that were forced to stay in production, stay in business, and they saw no change in their business. In fact, they saw an uptick in business demands, and as a result, needed people. So we worked with those organizations. But we are impacted by larger broader economic issues. So, at the end of 2019, when it was the lowest unemployment, in 50 years, companies were coming to us saying, we need help finding talent. And so our business was really booming. So we've steadied out over the last couple of months here as companies have gotten more comfortable with their new working dynamics. um, and we operated a lot over the phone, video, to begin with. We didn't necessarily work with people in our backyard where we went and met with them in person, but for those that did, that opportunity was completely eliminated. So we've just pivoted to holding more Zoom meetings. And I will say that it's actually, in some instances, even when we were working with local companies and we didn't meet them in person, the whole transition to Zoom and adoption and acceptance of Zoom has allowed me to meet people I maybe never really would have anyway, because we were just used to doing it over video. So I think that was kind of a cool, unexpected benefit of this whole transition as well. So people more generally are getting much more comfortable with jumping on video, and when you're in the people business, it's awesome to have the opportunity to be able to see someone in person, as I air quote that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. The audio listeners will appreciate that. Yeah. That is I mean, it's this whole transition has normalized a lot of like things, right? Like, so it sounds like it's maybe accelerated that all digital version, everybody, even locally, like you know uh I haven't had a in-person meeting in quite some time, right? Even if somebody's down the street, we're on the Zoom meeting. And it comes with its benefits and its drawbacks,
it does.
but
Yeah.
it's good to be able to adapt like that, right? And
Yeah.
continue to do what your business does.
Mhm. I think
Um,
one of the other things I want to mention, which might be obvious, is now, in terms of just the hiring landscape, has now broadened beyond your regional, like, city limits. And companies now have this enormous opportunity, whether or not they embrace it, but they truly have this enormous opportunity to consider talent that may have been unattainable because they weren't in their local market. And the collective embracing of video has allowed them to do that, because companies are now more comfortable with the fact that you can be productive even if you're not sitting in an office seat. So I just think access to high quality talent has been an enormous benefit of this whole transition. That
right.
companies that were, once steadfast in that belief you had to be in your office, are now like, oh, if there's a really good engineer in, Pasadena and I'm sitting here in Buffalo, like, of course I can consider that when I never normally would have. So that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, ultimately, it should be a great thing for everybody, right? Like,
Mhm.
people are going to be able to find jobs that fit their interests better. Businesses are going to be able to widen the net to
Sure.
catch the right
Sure. Yeah,
person for a
absolutely.
position.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm excited to see where that mindset takes businesses because I do think that is a massive shift that was overdue to begin with. And this absolutely just flipped that dynamic virtually, over the course of a few months.
Excellent. And kind of on that same wavelength, I'd like to talk about one way that you're starting to reach out a little beyond the borders of Buffalo, which is recently we invited SelectOne into the VidWheel Creator
Mhm.
Network. And that was around taking over a video podcast that you guys have been doing. And I guess, I don't know, do you want to tell the listeners and watchers what the business of people is?
Sure. Yep. So the business of people is, we call it a conversation series with business leaders, hiring managers about really just that people, what they've been doing over the course of the last couple of months to really prioritize their people, whether that means adjusting hiring practices, what they're doing to ensure that their employees are engaged and feel connected to, how they optimize communication with their people. Um, we wanted to take the opportunity to still be involved in the collective conversation around why people are your most important asset. And having lost the opportunity to meet in person, we wanted to make sure that still that we were talking with and understanding what our partners and other companies are doing to, again, prioritize people as they go through this massive stage of transition.
Yeah. And it's a great series. You've got a lot of great conversations there with other folks, from client businesses, I think, and then maybe some outside ones that
Yeah.
it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll say that we've long been encouraged by the marketing minds of the world that we've worked with that video is the next kind of wave of where it's at. We did try that, and I think rather effectively, that whole content marketing strategy of really writing, contributing from a content perspective. And it kind of took this whole crisis to force me to jump out of my comfort zone and try, get in front of video and try to take advantage of this new kind of marketing strategy. And so that's where, partnering with you come in. And it's been a great way to connect with people in a different way because who wants to read another article?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of them out there.
There's just so much content, and so we're doing what we can to like offer valuable, digestible insights, that can help people understand what others are doing. Because I think as we all sit alone at home, sometimes I know I do. I wonder, like, what are other people doing? So that was kind of the impetus and thought process behind the project.
Right. And yeah, a look for other folks, right, who haven't I don't know. A lot of people didn't quite know which direction to go. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's been good. It's been a great series. So, do you want to tell the story of the podcast a little? Like, how did you kind of decide to get started with it? Um,
So
and
quite
what's
honestly,
worked?
yeah, quite honestly, the other partners at my company said, "You have to do this. You should." No, I think they tapped me because I'm the most, I'd say, extroverted and crave human interaction. I'm also very community oriented and I enjoy networking. So it seemed like a logical person to kind of initiate this. We Despite my innate desire and obsession with planning, I was almost forced to just like throw that away. And I remember Kevin Carl, president, our CEO of Select One, just challenged me. He said, just go for it. Like what do you have to what's the risk? Just try it. And I guess like and this is like broader, concept of like just who cares if you fail? Just figure it out and pivot. And I think I just embraced it. It was during like this enormous transition and change anyway that it felt a little bit more comfortable to just try something versus the more very deliberate, intentional, planned approach that I
Yeah.
typically drives my existence. So I tried it with one of our marketing guys. We had worked with another organization that helped us with marketing. And I said, let's just jump on and talk. And then my next episode was with someone internally. So I got more comfortable with video and honestly was working on like, where do I look at the screen? And shoot, I have to remember to stop talking and to actually listen.
Yep.
And it's evolved from there, I suppose. I've tried to learn a little bit from each episode. I mean, what's worse than listening and watching yourself? I don't think really anything, but you learn so much.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. A couple points on that. It is super important to watch yourself, right? After you record something or have one of these conversations. But also, that is something that we like really embrace in the creator network, that we always say, ship it, right? Your first one's never going to be your best video or anything else. Like pick your medium, pick your project. You almost have to set a baseline and then try to kind of incrementally improve from there. And that's always the advice I give, because that first one is the hardest, right?
Mhm.
I think there's no doubt there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just honestly, it's so cliche. It sounds so lame, but just getting started is the hardest. Like I didn't even know that Zoom had a recording capability before I tried doing this. Like that's how little I knew about video and recording. And it was just getting started and not really caring so much about the perfect outcome.
Excellent. That's the way to go. I am going to ask you the one kind of question that links all these podcasts
Mm.
together. And that is, what is one thing that you have done to make your business or a client's business smarter?
Yeah, I mean, so the one smartest thing that we've helped our clients do is really been very, very intentional and about the belief that fit and alignment matter. So at SelectOne, we just are so committed to this belief, and we have different actually processes and aspects of our recruiting process that ensure we take this into consideration. That you can't just hire based on a resume. There is an entire process that goes into ensuring that you find that game changing, impactful talent, and a lot of that is seeing fit. And we are committed to helping our clients understand the value of hiring for fit versus just hiring because a resume looks okay.
Yeah, hiring for fit can play such a huge role. So, yeah, I think that's a great, smartest thing. And that kind of ends the official questions that we do on this podcast. But what I like to do on the podcast and any other interview that I do is ask just an open ended, is there anything that we were talking about that maybe it shook something loose, made you think of something? A lot of people have come up with books that they wanted to talk about, software tied to their business, mentality of business. Uh, Open ended. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I guess this whole exercise, staying true to the theme of our partnership in this conversation, in terms of I have personally learned so much about how I communicate in terms of body language, hands, how I look, how I listen, which is something that I've been really working on by watching yourself on video. And truly, this is the way of the world moving forward, whether or not we all go back to an office or not. Like there has been universal broad adoption of video interaction. And it just made me a more intentional, I think, conversationalist, communicator, and listener by watching myself. And I just encourage people to do it, as awkward, as uncomfortable as it is. I don't really do it enough, to be honest, but I think
Does it
it's
ever make you think that you maybe were making weird faces in meetings and
yeah,
stuff back before the pandemic, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always think of, right?
Well,
So,
and we've talked about this too, Neil. It's the ums and the
sure.
rights and those useless, fluffy qualifiers. Like if I would just learn to pause and embrace that silence, it'd probably be a more effective conversation versus me like aggressively nodding
Yeah.
or just saying, yeah, just trying to be more thoughtful about my communication.
Yeah. Yeah. It is I love that for an open-ended answer or comment. Like that is such a big part of video communication. It is really a big part of all communication, but when you have it recorded, you can go back and look again. And I on this podcast, I definitely have had the experience of going back, seeing some stuff that maybe I didn't, try to remember not to do that next time. And yeah, thinking back to the
Yeah.
meetings where maybe I made weird faces or said goofy stuff because of exactly what you're saying. You got to take that time and you got to, um, put your, I don't know, think about what you're doing, be intentional about it. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really where it
I
comes
mean,
down
there's
to.
a reason that high performing sales teams like make each other listen to sales calls
It's a great
and
point.
like all of the best professional teams, collegiate teams like spend hours watching video because there's a lot to be learned from watching yourself and absorbing what you can do differently. I mean, I'm someone that just really loves like that professional or just development type thing. And you can do
Mhm.
that on your own now just
Right.
by watching yourself, which is equally cringeworthy and equally beneficial.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we'll focus on, the benefit of it. Well,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you very much, Aly, for being on the Smarter Business podcast. If anyone has enjoyed what they heard here today, please go ahead and subscribe. And Aly, I've taken to waving as we end these
Okay,
things now
great.
because we can't shake hands like we
Yeah.
used to back before the Zoom days. So
Yeah. No, great. Well, thanks, Neil. It was a pleasure. Always
yeah,
enjoyed talking.
thank you for being on. Great insights. Thanks, Aly.